So even if we take the algorithm away, do you think that is enough? Or do you think if somebody is lying, should they
Yeah.
be removed? Should you ban people from these social platforms where they don't need any credentials to get on them? It's just a megaphone for whatever you want. What do you think? Is that too extreme?
I think in terms of large scale regulation, that's too hard. That's where you get into it's almost anti-competitive to say that the companies have to moderate all the content on the platform. That's just a huge scale, both technical and human problem. The thing that gets to the crux is this tension between a freedom of speech argument and a safety argument. Thankfully, a lot of these larger companies have dedicated trust and safety teams that do have human people that go in and look for this type of content and have long and detailed terms of service and community guidelines policies in order to mitigate the worst of that arena. The reason that I think I'd be less scared of that type of content in a world where it probably could never get on an algorithmically generated feed is because to discover that type of content now requires a human to human interaction. Another creator on the platform you follow and trust, or a friend you trust, has to tell you to watch this video. And in that moment, there's some reciprocity of getting information from a peer or a slight power dynamic, but one that you can actually judge for yourself whether or not this
Yeah.
person seems credible, something you'd be interested in exploring. Whereas right now, because that there's almost an implicit uh, trust in the platform itself that is so large. If it's coming across my feed, I almost implicitly trust it, and there's no reciprocity to understand why this is being recommended to me, who caused this to pop up for me. It makes it harder for people to judge for themselves whether this content aligns with their values. Does that make any sense?
It is a little murky though, because it almost then implies that people don't have a choice what content they consume. That's true, but also not true, right? I go
No, I
onto
totally
social
get it.
media, I swipe through stuff I don't want to see, I tap on videos I do want to see. So I do have a choice, but when you think about algorithms today, that choice has a filter on it, right? And it
Exactly.
could be a very suggestive filter that we don't know about.
Yeah, there's less
Mhm.
time to think and to have that moment of reflection because it just appears and you can click on it instantly. Whereas in this alternate universe where you have actual understanding of why this is being recommended to you and more time in either conversation or recommendation, that this is an actual conversation you're having with another human, which is something we're good at and good at figuring out trust and judgment that way. And we're not technologically dominated. I think that you give people more of a chance to
Yeah.
actually have that sense of reflection, which I'm not saying they don't have currently, just maybe are not given the same resources, like
It
defense mechanisms, as they would in the other.
Yeah, it comes back to this idea of personal responsibility, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want in a democratic system everyone to be
Exactly.
informed and responsible to figure out the truth and define their ideas. Algorithms, social media platforms are really good at spoon feeding content to you. I think why the algorithm is different than that one to one recommendation or following of a person or a platform or a channel is it's going to be more extreme. If you have an algorithm, you might see 10 different channels, but you're going up a ladder of more
Yeah.
extreme. What's going to engage you more? What's going to shock you more? What's going to get you to comment more? That's their motivation. That's what all these platforms want. Media companies, advertising backed, they want more engagement. There's that. Even if a minimum percentage of users that fall into that trap of becoming radicalized politically, that's what the whole system's trying to do with that style of content. I think that it's a good thing to remove that because it does slow things down, like you said. The biggest impact of this, aside from potentially allowing people to form their ideas in a way that is unfiltered, right, through an algorithm,
Mhm.
is wouldn't this destroy the advertising industry? Did we
Oh,
skip on that?
we might have skirted that issue a little. The thing that gives me hope about brands being encouraged by this is that there's so much about brand safety, right? And that's why we're seeing a increase in direct sponsorships with creators where brands feel like they have more direct control, like in a traditional media landscape. We're not necessarily seeing a decrease in programmatic advertising spending, but we are seeing a landscape shift in terms of this constant cycle of something bad happens on YouTube and brands leave and all that stuff.